Hey guys, I've got a little video for you. Well, I say a little one, but I'm going to show you guys. So this is with the 5-ton kick press that I've got the tucking tool like Ray Shaheen has, and I'm just going to show you a quick demonstration of basically how to do it. He has those shrinking facilitators. I ended up cutting a tree down on my property of an old oak, so this is my new wood stump. Let me see, I'll see if you guys can check it out. So this is the new wood stump. I hollowed it out, so it's a lot bigger. I could put a bigger panel in it, as you could see. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna demonstrate the tucking tool, hammering it in the stump, and then English wheeling it. So I had a couple guys that were interested in more of the shrinking side of it, of how this thing is going to work. So I get to show you kind of the full method. So what I'm going to do, as you guys can see on my panel here, I'm going to shrink this side. And the way these dies are, the way there's 3 of them, I'm going to put the top one that's dead straight. I'm going to shrink it here, 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 and here. Okay, and this is just going to be a rough, I'd say, area of what I'm going to shrink. Depends on the panel you're making, whether it be a fender, a headlight area. Obviously with this tool, I'm going to start in here, I'm going to work my way out on each one. If you want more, you're obviously going to, after you get all that done, it's a time-consuming process. Tuck it, beat it on the wood stump, come back and English wheel it. After that, if you need more, you're going to come in, don't shrink the same spots. You want to come in between if you need more shrinkage. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this right now of what it's doing, or what this machine's capable of. As you guys can see, that's pretty dramatic. And see, I have these tucks here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my hammer that I made. This is that weighted hammer in another video that you can see how I made. And what I'm going to have the pointed in. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to hit on each side. I'm going to pull that tuck, I'm going to make it tight so that metal can't move. Then I'm going to come in, I'm going to start beating on these spines. I'm going to do all of them. And what I'm doing is I'm making this metal, obviously just like Ray Shaheen's, but for some of you guys that don't know him, it's basically, I'm going to make the metal do this. So you got your metal here, and when I puckered it up, now I'm going to do this. I'm going to drive that metal into each other, and I'm going to shrink it. It kind of looks like a big seashell, but for you to wheel it up in the English wheel and getting this much crown, you're making this area thinner. And if you wheel it so much, it's going to be so thin. It's going to be strong. But this is, I'm going to shrink it, so I'm going to add material down here, and I'm going to get overall the same shape. So let me grab some headphones, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you on the stump. That's the reason I made this bigger stump, is to get bigger panels in there. The other one I had, it was so small, you just couldn't get a fender or something. So I made this one, and it seems to work pretty well. So I'm going to show you guys right now, step by step. So in this seashell cutout area, you guys can't really see it in the video, but it's carved out deeper on one side and shallow on the other, kind of like a walk-in pool. And the reason why, this thing, see, it sits pretty much under. So I'm going to start beating these edges over. I'm going to find the best contour, which looks about right there, and then I'm going to show you how it's done. And you always want air underneath these tucks, because that's what's going to move the metal. So if you guys could see this, see how I hit it on each end. This is more open, this is tighter. And you don't want to get too tight because then it'll want to fold over. But I'm going to do this just a little bit further back and then I'll run it. I'll hammer it all flat and I'll do each one. So as you guys can see, these tucks, so these hard lines are going to be spines. And as you can see, I've already got a good shape. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start running it through the English wheel. And you want to find the right crown to what you're going to make. Obviously, your English wheel is going to have. So you're going to put a little bit of pressure to it. And we're just going to suck these through to smooth it. It's going to get tight, see? I'm just going to keep doing that until it rolls off. And I'll do each and every one of them. So you can see how it's working. Shrinking method, and you would think that this is going to stretch it, but all I'm doing is smoothing. So as you can see, I still have rings from where I used the tucking tool. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to use more pressure, but you can really see these spines where that metal is just wavy. So I'm going to finish English wheeling it. I'm going to show you the total shrinkage of it. Depending on your wheel, if you have enough strength in your frame and it doesn't flex, it'll smooth this right out where you can't even tell that it's. So you can see that it's getting there. So I'm going to keep doing it, and then I'll show you the finished product. A little bit more pressure. So when you're using this method, and I'll show you why, but the reason I'm using this method is I don't have a shrinker that can reach in there. And there's some shrinkers out there that'll reach in, you know, 5, 6, 4.5 inches. And then if you have like a Yoder hammer, you could use the thumbnail dies. But for somebody like me, one day, you know, I hope to have something like that. But this is a way to gain crown fast. And it's effective. They've used this for years. And a lot of guys, I mean, if you don't have all that, you know, high dollar equipment, you can still get the same result as a lot of guys that are doing a lot of stuff like this, like myself. A little bit more pressure. So all I'm doing is kind of smoothing over my tracks. And obviously, you're just going to go over it and smooth out the whole panel. And like I said, if you need more shrinkage, more fall over on this panel, if you're making something similar, what I would do is I'd get it to a stage that's pretty close to this one. And what I would do is when you get done, you could see the where I use that tucking tool. And then I'm going to go some low pressure on the same anvil just to kind of get out any ripples. And your low pressure is going to depend on your wheel and you being familiar with it. Now all I'm doing is kind of just creating everything so it flows together. So, if you guys can see See, here's those hard spines that I shrunk it with, okay? And I have a little bit of marring, but the panel's smooth. And then what I could do is I could keep English wheeling it, but as you can see, that's the start of something. It's low here, because it puckered up here, so I'd have to come in and stretch that in the wheel. So I'll have to increase the pressure, and I can just wheel and stretch that side until I get where it's perfectly what I'm after. See, that's already been picked up. I had a low spot, it kind of went in and dippity-dooed. But that's what I want to share with you. And then if you need more crown, whether you're making, that would be like a roof insert, that would be like the front part of it. If you need more, you'd obviously go back to this tucking tool, and you can see your old lines, but you could re-clean it, and I can come in between them and shrink it because you've already put so much material there. And believe it or not, you'd be surprised. I mic'd it after I got my new stump and tried it. It's over 20, right around 20 to 25 thousandths thicker right there in that spine than it is right next to it. So that's telling you that that metal is actually forcing its way into each other, made it thicker. But if you guys were trying to make this in a week, like just wheeling it, you would be a lot of work to try to get that much. It's easier to shrink it and then come back and finesse it, and it's gonna make this outer panel stronger. So, and the more I wheel these spines, you can kind of hear them. I don't know if you can in the video, but you can hear me going over these spines with the wheel, and it's hardened because there's more. I wouldn't say it's hardened, but it's more material there, and this wheel isn't used to it. Because if you're moving that other material, and you can, when you get to this edge, you can pull it down just a little bit to kind of give it some more shape as you're just kind of bending it over. But if you're using the dies, when you shove your material in, if your machine's real stiff, like mine, or some of these bigger ones, you always want to come in at an angle, never come straight in. It's always going to be better to come in at an angle, and it just takes it right in. And all I'm doing is just finessing right there where I shrunk this edge. And you could see, as you can see, it's a nice roll, and all I did was shrink it, and it's a stout panel. And like I said, if you need to shrink more, you don't want to get too far away because you'll lose your spines where you know you were. So obviously the finished product is where you're going to spend the time on low pressure, just smoothing this panel out. But like, so the dotted line are my old spines, okay? Those are my old spines. My new spines are going to come in here if I was to do it on the solid lines. And you could already see, even if you went out there, you could see how much shape I've already got there. So if I needed it really to fall off, trying to think of something that really falls off. If it was a patch on like this Jaguar fender or something, it's obviously real steep. So I've got to have to do a lot more. So I just go back to this press and I go on my solid lines and do that and do the same method. And when you do that, I mean, you're going to get a really nice panel. And this is an effective way of shrinking, like some of the other videos out on YouTube. The problem is your handheld shrinker stretchers, your foot operated, most of them can't reach in this far. This machine that I made, if I wanted to, I could start a panel that's 24 inches. I could start shrinking it, and as I come further and further out, I get more and more aggressive with it. So it's less shrinkage further in, and more. The only problem, I wish these were kind of up on a pedestal. So as this panel comes in, I can do it a little bit harder. But if I were just to put a little slight kick in it, so it just had a small line in it, and then as I got to like say right here, I can start putting more pressure. This whole panel can really shape over. But that's the video for today. I hope you guys liked it. I just recently got that stump finished up and carving it out. It's a white oak, so you want a hardwood if you're going to do it. What I did is I chopped down a tree, got the stump, then I cut the stump long ways, and that's what I'm using. And if you look at Ray Shaheen's, he's building his out of like 2x8s or 2x10s, and I just built a stand for it, and I just used a whole tree. So I hope that video is beneficial to you guys. I hope you guys learned something today, and now you guys can kind of see with these three things, this machine, as the English wheel, it stretches metal, but it also smooths metal. This does the tucking, and then obviously manpower with the hammer and the stump drives that into each other. This just smooths it out. So with this panel here, I can actually keep running on the English wheel and make this pristine to what I'm trying to make it fit. I could smooth it all out. It's all gonna flow, be a nice little panel. So, hope you guys like this video. If you guys aren't a subscriber, go ahead and hit the link below. Follow me on social media on Facebook and Instagram under Iconic Metalworks. I'm always kind of doing new stuff. But I wanted to share this with you now that I got my stump on the stand and it's out of my way, and I'll be starting on the Jaguar. Well, I've already started on it, but I'll really be moving on it, and I'm gonna start doing some videos on that. So, you guys stay tuned. And I'll catch you guys later.